KAYLA, ALTLAND, and I am the Friends of the Park Associate with Park Pride. And Park Pride works really hard to engage communities and help them activate the power of parks. And so we're here today to talk about bringing positive activity to your park. And we have a number of panelists that are very active in their local parks and strong members of our Friends of the Park groups from all over Metro Atlanta. And I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves, give their name, the park that they work with, and also just kind of generally, geographically where they're located. And then we will have a couple of questions, and each person will be able to share how they have worked to bring positive activity into their park. So we'll start.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Pauline Drake, and I'm representing the Jennie Drake Park. The park is named for my mother, in memory of my mother. And it's located in northwest Atlanta. The address is 645 Waterford Road, Northwest.
Great. I am Ansley Whipple, and I'm with Woodruff Park, and I work for the Atlanta Downtown Improvement District, and Woodruff Park is smack dab in the middle of downtown, in the middle of the city.
My name is Lisa Shinew. I'm associated with Henderson Park. We're located in Tucker, Georgia, off Henderson Road.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. We very much appreciate you giving your valuable time on this Saturday morning. So the first question I want to ask to kind of get our thoughts flowing is, what does a welcoming and vibrant park mean to you?
Well, certainly, I think of a park where you find people and where they feel comfortable. I know one of the issues that we had with our park in the beginning was it was really developed from some vacant lots. The intention had been to have homes built there, but over many years, probably over about 50 years, the homes had not been built. So through the city council, we were able to acquire 5 vacant lots from which the park has developed. But people had been dumping trash and things like that in the park, and mainly those, well, it wasn't a park. They had been dumping trash, and I think the people who would mainly go into the area would be young boys, you know, who like to explore and get dirty and things like that. So for us, it's meant changing the image of the park. So now we always clean up the park. And the other thing, now that we have a trail in the park that people can walk, the people who walk expect, I guess they have a standard they're expecting, because we had been a little neglectful over the summer, and I guess there had been so much rain. A lot of weeds had grown up and were starting to cover the trail. And because of the way the park is, because of the topography, I guess you'd say, the park maintenance people don't just every time go down into the park. So these weeds and branches had started to kind of cover the trail. So one of the regular walkers let me know what was going on, and we were able to remedy that situation. So I guess they say if you're going to have a trail in here, keep it so we can walk it.
I think that cleanliness and safety are 2 very key things, and just overall like appearance and having it maintained and look like somebody is there taking care of it. Like it should look like there's people checking up on it and have some ownership over it. Luckily, with my job, I started, and there had been no one in my position for a few years, but there was a maintenance crew, and there's a public safety crew that was there doing that. So then I got to go in and kind of be the icing on the cake and take it to the next level with programming and events. But and I'm not very involved with the cleanliness and the public safety aspects of it, but it helps my job so much to have that piece of it taken care of, and that then I can really focus on attracting people through programming. And also just things for people to do or look at, or, it's, having some, whether it's walk on a trail, sit on a bench, look at birds, just having activities or, things, even if it's the most simple things to do.
Henderson Park is a little over 100 acres. So there are a lot of features to our park. We have soccer fields, tennis courts, there's a lake there, picnic pavilions. And how I got involved in the park was one of my neighbors, who I had not met at that time, put out information that she was interested in starting a community garden. And I love to grow my own food, so that was right up my alley. Out of that, we started the Friends of Henderson Park group. And oddly enough, a lot of us that were founding members of this back in 2010 had no children. And I would walk past the homes of these folks and have no idea who lived there. And it was an avenue to meet my neighbors. And all of us felt that way, that having different activities that were designed for adults as well as kids got us out of our home, out on the paths, enjoying the lake, growing food.
Well, I think that from the summary of your responses of a welcoming and vibrant park, it really sounds like it's not just about the activities, but it's about the people in the community and how they're able to interact in that space. So I'm going to give you a chance now to talk about your park and specific examples of things that you've done to try to bring positive activity. And I know that you guys have already mentioned some of those. Feel free to share a specific example and tell us about how you were able to plan for this activity or whatever it was that you were doing and some of the impacts of that. Or you can talk about overall strategies that maybe your friends group or others that are working in the park with you have tried.
Okay. At Henderson Park, when we first started the Friends group, we wanted to make ourselves known to the community, so we decided to do a scavenger hunt. And we did it in February because people are sedentary and they need a reason to get out and about, sometimes a little encouragement. So one of our folks is skilled on computers and a bit artistic, so she was able to make it look like treasure hunt, pirate theme, to introduce people to the different wildlife in our park. She printed images of different animals, and we actually cut these, put them into cellophane bags, and then hid them along the trail and provided clues to help participants find them. And one thing that to me was really interesting about that day, if you've not visited our park, I will tell you that we have an entrance off Livesey that is probably 2 miles if you drive the street from the entrance off Henderson Road. And folks did not realize that that park was connected. They would walk one trail, have no idea that there was a lake and soccer fields on the other side. People who entered on the Livesey side didn't realize you could walk all the way through to the other soccer fields on the Henderson Road side and to the community garden. So we did that a couple of years, and then last fall we had a festival, and we made it a smaller hunt, and we decided to take the idea of the little doors that you hear hidden around Atlanta, but we made fairy doors or gnome doors. A couple of folks who are pretty handy with carpentry tools made some doors. Here's an example of one of them, just using scrap material that he had at home. He is a big Florida fan, so one of them was painted in the colors of the University of Florida, blue and orange, and the doorknob was a button. So we hid those along the trail and wrote clues to help them find it, and then on their sheet they were asked to fill out different information that would show that they actually found the door. Like one asked for the flower color that was on the door, one of the doors had an address number. And we talked to different businesses in the community so that folks who completed the answer sheets correctly were awarded prizes.
That sounds awesome. I'm also looking at a lot of the different materials that you've brought with you today, Lisa, and I was wondering if you wouldn't mind reading one of the clues, because it has a little rhyme to them.
Our clues were along the White Trail in Henderson Park. If you happen to have visited, you might be familiar with the White Trail. First clue, hickory dickory dock, kingfisher dives like a rock. So there would be a picture of a kingfisher in this area that you would need to retrieve and take back. Where coyotes creep near the creek, spot the blaze tree with roots dirt free. At Rocky Creek Bend, bass you will see. Look opposite way if you intend to search a fallen tree. And we had a picture of a bass there that they would retrieve. And then with the fairy doors, I think as I mentioned earlier, you would have to identify a certain item asked for about the door. One of those clues at the top of the rise, the beach you do reach, watch for fairy door and heart before you depart. And that door had another door that would open, and so it asked what's behind that door.
Awesome. It's really great. And I think that something like this really illustrates how you can combine nature and poetry and encouraging people of all ages and hopefully cross-generational groups to be able to get involved in something like this. And one of the things that you mentioned was how you use the assets and the skills of the people in your neighborhood to help put this together, not only from designing the materials that you used for the scavenger hunt, but also in creating the fairy doors, and the impact being that you wanted people to explore and see the entire park. So thank you for sharing that, Lisa. But whoever wants to share about their efforts next.
Okay, I think our first activity at the Jennie Drake Park was really the dedication, and that was back in May of 2011. And so for that, it was really a matter of, we had some assistance from the Parks Department, but also we had our neighbors who became the Friends of the Park group, who helped with that event. And it was pretty much just an event acknowledging that the park was there. The park sign had been put up, and we had about 50 to 60 neighbors who came out, as well as some public officials. And so that was kind of our start, and it was significant because I think it was sort of a decision point for us. In our neighborhood, there are actually 3 areas that are designated as parks. The Jennie Drake Park is only one. It's small, 5 acres, right in the middle of the neighborhood. The bigger park in the neighborhood is the Mary Shy Scott Park. Used to be Harwell Heights Park, but it's probably maybe about 20 acres. It's a bigger park, and it has tennis courts and I think a baseball diamond and things like that. The third park is on Dale Creek Road or Drive, because it has never been developed into a usable area. So we had to decide, what did we want to do? Did we want to just have an area like that on Dale Creek, which would be protected from unwanted development, or did we want to have something that would be usable for the neighborhood? So our group decided we wanted something that would be usable for the neighborhood. So that's what we've been working on ever since that time. Because remember, those 5 acres weren't developed. There was a lot of privet. We know about privet, and we know about wisteria, and also that English ivy on the trees. So we had to do a lot to make it so that people could use it. And one, I guess you could call it an event, and it's an event we have every month, is our volunteer event, working in the park. And we have adults from the neighborhood, but also teenagers, high school students who come out and volunteer with us. And one of the things we're about to do in terms of an activity is really in a month from now, we're going to have a volunteer appreciation. So we're working on some ideas for activities, and the scavenger hunt is an idea that one of the friends has come up with. So I want to talk with you more about how we can get that to work.
Sure.
Yeah, so we're going to have games, we're going to have prizes, and refreshments. So, yeah.
Well, I hope that is a very successful event, and it's great when you can build connections with other friends groups and kind of share ideas with what they're doing. And I think that the information that you shared, Pauline, was that it's not just about sort of those special things, but it's also the regular activity happening in the park can have an impact, and how you try to protect the land in your community, even if it's not already a park, and how the different parks can be used. So
Yes.
Great. I'm very lucky because my organization is open to me being very experimental and trying a lot of different ideas and getting really creative, and just especially if it doesn't cost a lot of money, it's like, let's just try it and see if it works. And if nobody comes, then nobody comes. And now we know that is the case. And so I would say definitely, just experimenting and kind of almost, it's the lighter, quicker, cheaper approach of just, trying all kinds of things and seeing what sticks. And then over time, you just start to build like a portfolio of programs and activities that are stronger as time goes on. And for us, it's been important to understand the rhythms of the park and how it changes through the seasons, through the days of the week and the time of day, and when are our peak times and when are our off times, and trying to spread our programming resources throughout those times so that we're not loading up too heavy on just the peak times, although it is important to still do a lot of programs on the peak times because you want to capitalize on all the people being there, but also keeping in mind that it's important to try to activate it during times where there aren't normally people coming there, just to help it have some kind of consistency and just to help with the vibrancy of it. And so we do programs, we think of it as, we'll do like kind of ongoing programs that are smaller that happen every week. And for those, we just try to be really consistent and have it always ongoing. And then, so we do stuff every Saturday we have yoga at 9 o'clock in the morning. And it's been the case for like a year and a half. Sometimes we'll take a break for like the dead of winter for that. But then we do some programs that are like a series, like earlier this summer we had a food truck festival on Fridays for 13 weeks. For a season, we'll say, okay, this spring we're going to try out a lunchtime program where we invite like community partners to come do some kind of demonstration each Wednesday for like the spring. We'll kind of take the year in chunks, and then we like to pepper the year with special events. So events that are a one-off thing that are it's like a one-time thing that happens. Hopefully, if it's a great event, then hopefully it'll become an annual thing. And if not, it's like, okay, that was a good learning experience. Let's move on. And so just to kind of list some events that we've done, the Food Truck Festival, we did a pop-up repair shop. That was for a couple of weeks. We invited a group from New York who repairs like small appliances and furniture and clothing, and they came and kind of headquartered in the park for a few weeks. And then we've had movie screenings, like Screen on the Green style. We've had concerts. This summer we did a series of concerts because Centennial Park was closed for renovation, so we kind of adopted the Wednesday wind down concerts just to get our feet wet with the concert experience. And that went really well. It was a lot of work, but we learned a lot. And then we do last year we did what we call Woodruff bark Halloween dog competition, costume contest. It's like a dog costume contest. And last year we did it at Halloween, and then this year we decided to move it up to the summer and do it right before Dragon Con and call it Doggy Con. So it's like a Dragon Con for dogs. And we did that because when we did it in Halloween, we realized there were a lot of other Halloween dog events around town. So we said, well, can we kind of shift it to make it more like uniquely downtown? We do a 5K called the Daffodil Dash. We do a holiday event with Georgia State University and their choir, and we have them sing with the Homeward Men's Choir, which is a homeless men's choir. We have a new game cart, which I could talk a whole long time about in and of itself, but we'll do game nights at the game cart, yoga classes I mentioned, meditation, history tours. I do a history tour twice a month for free of the area around there, and the great thing about that is it costs us no money. I mean, it just initially costs money to like get the whole script, work with a historian to write the script, but now it's costs zero money. It helps to fill up the calendar, and it's something that can happen in perpetuity. And yeah, that's kind of just we've done more stuff, but that's just like some highlights. And then the other thing is attracting outside events to come. So it's, all these parks are most parks are public parks, so anyone can apply for a permit to have an event there. And, we're balancing our calendar with the calendar of outside events coming in. And if people come in and do events, then it helps us because we aren't having to organize these events. So, as some parks are overloaded with events and are too programmed and are having trouble because there's just constantly outsiders coming trying to do stuff there. But we're in a place where we are really happy to try to attract new groups to come do stuff. And then just help facilitate that process. And like, if we can, just kind of help walk those people through the permit process with the city. And so it's just kind of trying a lot of different things and not being afraid for stuff to fail, because then it's not really a failure because you learned something. So just building on that.
I like that advice of, sort of growing through the different things that you try, and also, thinking about how you can be strategic and when and where you're planning things, because your park. You guys are there, and you are, the most knowledgeable of some of these things. And I also think that working with other groups and how you can invite different kinds of groups to come in and think of the park not just as a park but a public space. And so going back to your idea of the repair shop, is how can you bring people in from the community that might not come to a park for park things but might come to a park for other things that are needed. And so it is a public space for your community. And everyone here obviously has so many ideas. I think one of the important things that I'm sure all of you do but may not realize is that you're also stewards and educators to encourage other people to be stewards in the park, because you're sharing the nature that you know about. You're also sharing about the history in the park, and how you are looking at the community as sort of an asset in being able to better the parks, but also looking at the outside. So thank you all for coming today.